Welcome, everybody, to the R.O.A.R podcast show. John Smith here with John Rutan. We got Penny Swan in the office here. She's live on Facebook, something we never done yet before, John. Today we're kind of doing a sort of a quick show today because the news came out that we got 3 people running in Ward 1, and we got some, what would you call it, John? I don't know if you want to call it voting fraud here or something. What do you call it? You called it election something.
Yeah, it's definitely a concern. I don't know if I would go as far as to say fraud, but I would say that it is it's a violation of the law.
Okay, so
let's say that.
So what we got going on is that we got 2 candidates, Ted Jansen, we got Dennis Wainscott running for Ward 1, and then I don't know the new candidate, and to be honest with you, I don't know his first name. I think his last name's Jennings.
Peter Jennings, and not the newscaster.
Gotcha.
But let's back up just a minute.
Okay.
We've got 2 people that are running in this race that have run in many other races in town and council quite a few times. Ted Jansen and Dennis Wainscott. And oddly enough, it seems like every time one of those 2 run, at the last minute, there's a college
supporter, a person that the college supports to run against them.
Yeah, there's a college loyalist.
Well, you're getting into a little bit of the conspiracy world now, John.
No. It's. I'm saying I didn't say that they're paid or made or that anybody's pulling any marionette strings and making them dance. I'm just saying, but the people that have come up after those 2 have started running, in many other cases, have been college loyalists, people that are loyal to or have respect for the college. Now, I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing. I'm just making that as a statement.
Or just has the optics to being supported by the college.
I'm just making that as a statement. I mean, I know people that went to MSU, and they would sit in the middle of an entire group of OSU people and wear maize and blue, even though they know they're going to get thumped on, right? That takes a lot of... Now Michigan State, U of M didn't say, hey, we want you to do that, right? They didn't. It doesn't further them any at all, but it's just out of this loyalty because of they went there. And this is what I'm talking about. When I say this, people go, oh, well, you're talking conspiracies like the college is trying to make people do things. No. I'm talking straight loyalty. I mean, people pay double the cost of a coat just to wear it because it's got the colors on it from where they graduated, which in my mind is kind of ridiculous because they already took you for about 80 to 120 grand for a piece of paper. Now you're going to pay double for a coat to wear? I don't understand.
All right, we're off topic, but John...
No, we're not off topic. That's the loyalty that I'm talking about.
Sure.
I'm not saying that the college is or has ever told them how to vote,
right,
or how they want them to vote.
Right.
I'm just saying it's done out of loyalty alone.
Okay. So now I was reading Sam Fry. Sam Fry wrote an article about this.
I wanted to read that article and didn't get a chance to.
Yeah, it's a good article. Penny obviously has been in communication with me, and I talked to Adam Stockford about this. I did talk to Stephen French today, the city clerk. I did call John Lovinger's office. I haven't heard back from him. All this is kind of coming on a whim. I don't have all the information just yet. And
we did start this kind of quick.
Yeah.
Usually there's a lot more study that goes into a subject before we bring it out. But
yeah, so
I wanted to bring it out, and I was the one that called you and said, hey, can we do this podcast tonight? Because I think it's something that needs to be brought to the people's attention.
Exactly.
Because there's so many things that happen with the city that affect the people that are never brought out by their representatives to the people, which is, in my book, in my opinion, that is neglect. That is absolute.
So I'm gonna try to tread
malfeasance.
I'm gonna try to tread carefully here because I don't want to make any accusations. I don't want to say something too quickly or too bold.
No, and we don't want to state something that's fact that is not fact.
That's right. So what we do know is that Mr. Jennings has lived here for a shorter period of time than what the charter requires you to run for an election. Is that correct?
That is correct, as I understand.
So we have a charter, which is kind of like what our bylaws are in Hillsdale County or in Hillsdale City, right?
Let me explain it like this. Because of representative government and because of a Republican form of government, the government is not, the legislature is not allowed to create the rules that they work under, because as Madison said in the Federalist Papers, at that point in time, those are just parchment barriers. And at any time that the legislature doesn't like those barriers, they can just change them at will.
Sure.
And so this is part of what that Constitution was. The Constitution was a limit on the power of government. It's the only law that is signed into law by the people. And so with the state government, it's the same thing. The state constitution is the only law signed in,
right?
It's the only bill signed in to law by the people. So when we get down to the county and the cities, that charter is like their constitution. It's the limit that's voted on by the people that they don't get to just change willy-nilly.
And it also has to be in purview of the U.S. Constitution.
Article 6 says must be pursuant thereof. Right. Yes, you are correct.
Okay, so I've never read the charter, and I was just talking to Penny about it, and she said it's like 500 pages long. So
that's a big charter, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not reading it tonight, but...
well,
so,
let's state this. There are people that are paid to...
That's right.
Read that and should have.
So okay, I talked to Adam. He told me that Stephen decided that...
Mr.
French said that Jennings could run, that they found that it was unconstitutional, that we were preventing him from running because he hasn't lived here. So the charter says that they have to live here, what was it, Penny, 3 years? 3 years, and he's been here for a year and a half, approximately. Maybe 2. So
is he an American citizen?
Yes.
What if he wasn't?
No, then he can't run, right?
Well, what if he didn't live here at all? Right. But he was from another country. Could he run?
That was the conversation. I was actually going to go with that. It was the conversation that I had with Adam. Is I told him that I live out in Somerset Center, right?
Yeah.
I was going to go ahead and just file.
You should run for Ward 1.
Yeah, that's right. I was going to come in and file.
Yeah.
Right? Because at that time, it appears that they're picking and choosing what they're going to enforce and what not they're going to enforce.
And this is the worst part of it. This is the optics. Now, I'm going to jump into something really quick. I'm going to put my foot in the water and come right back out because you're going to get angry for me to go into this pool. But one of the things is they always complain about, those people in their tinfoil hat and the conspiracy theories they come up with. Okay, well, here's the problem, City Council and City Legal Counsel and Mr. French. If you guys were doing things transparent, where it was completely open to the public, then people would not come up with these when they don't have answers to things and fill in the blanks. This is natural law. This is human nature. So if you don't like the conspiracy theory thing, then be transparent. But the fact of the matter is the optics of this look like every time that Mr. Jansen and Mr. Wainscott run for a position, it's kind of like the two kids in the neighborhood. Everybody's playing kickball, and those two kids come, and they might not wear the same clothes. They're kind of poor. They don't they don't come from a good family.
Nerds?
Well, even two nerds, but two nerds don't come out to play kickball. Let's be fair. But they're two kids.
You didn't play much kickball?
Oh, that hurt. I'm over it now. It hurt just a little bit. But no, it's like those two kids that come out to play kickball, and every time those two kids come up, there's always some kind of an excuse why they can't play. The teams are full. Okay, then two people get hit in the shin, and they're out, and they go, "Hey, can we play?" No, the teams are even now, so we can't pick in. It's kind of like
stacking of teams.
Yeah, it's kind of like they come up with the rules as they go because they just don't want these two on their team.
I'm definitely not going to jump in that pool.
Okay, I'm just saying this is what it seems. This is the optics of it, and so if people are ascribing that there, then it's the fault of that's counsel for not having things completely transparent.
Obviously, by Samuel Fry writing that article, and it's in the newspaper, so this is obviously out for the public to read, right, to understand it. Why hasn't this council or Adam Stockford or John Lovinger or Mr. French, why hasn't anybody made a public statement about this?
Gee, I don't know. Why is it whenever the city's being sued in a federal court, they never make a public statement and tell the people that they're being sued?
And I just let Penny and John here listen to my conversation that I had with Mr. French, and I mean it was like pulling teeth. I mean, I couldn't get this guy to talk about anything.
It was pretty obtuse.
Like deliberately,
just put it that way. Yeah,
like
seemed like it was a deliberate, intentionally being obtuse.
I've never been disrespectful with the guy. I've never been in an argument.
No.
I've never been anything but cordial with the guy. And for some reason, I'm getting this this. I guess you would say like a wall, or just he's blocking or being silent for some reason. I just really want to know all the facts before I come on the show here.
Yeah, and I don't mean to be
frustrating.
I don't mean to be accusational, and I'm not going to be. I'm just going to state that this is my opinion. My opinion is, if you're hired to know what the building code is, then you probably should have read the building code and been prepared for any questions that would come on the building code,
Sure.
right? If not, then I think you could be seen as deficient at your job. So here's another thing. If you were on another crew at one time and they let you go under the auspice that you did some things against the code because you didn't know the code or didn't follow the code, and then something like this comes up again, then people might assume that the two allegations from before might also be true.
And I'm going to be blunt with that. Obviously, Mr. French, and a lot of people know this, has been accused, at least
Allegations
of running into a similar situation like this.
Well, not similar.
Okay.
He was accused of and alleged to have violated election law.
Yes.
Not once, but twice.
Right.
And very similar both times. Now, those two times are not similar to what's going on right now.
And whether they're true or not, at this point, it's just the optics of it, right?
But the fact of the matter is, his job is to make sure that in the city that the vote is unbiased and that it runs by the voting, by election law. That's his job.
In his conversation with me, he double-speaked, right?
Yeah.
He double-spoke. Double-spoke. He said that he did know about it, but then he didn't know about it until recently. But he knew about it before.
But now there's another person that gets paid quite handsomely.
Yeah, which is even
that is supposed to know that, and not only that, this person is supposed to read it and see anything that's coming up and be able to.
We're not legal scholars.
We're
not legal scholars, John.
No, that's why they hire a lawyer.
And if we read it, I guarantee that we could probably pinpoint all the legal problems in it. Someone that has a degree.
Here's what I'm going to say. I don't know whether I could or couldn't, but the fact of the matter is, anybody that's been through, anybody that has a bar ticket, has a license, should at the very least be able to read it and understand it and be able to provide legal counsel
sure,
to prevent people from being in a situation like this.
I would put money on it that we could do it. I would gamble on it. That's how good
I think I would too. Yeah, I think Jimmy the Greek would even give odds to it.
Well, with that being said, though, the biggest question here is, why are we in this situation? That's the biggest question. That's the question. It's not whether they did this deliberately or by mistake or error. It's why are we in this situation, right?
Let's look at a couple things. If we're on this, and here's the thing: most times the conspiracies, there is no conspiracy. It's usually just ignorance and laziness.
Sure.
That cause us to be in a situation that we shouldn't be. Well, laziness. You were paid to do something, didn't, because you were too busy collecting your paycheck for Friday so that you could go out drinking all weekend and then come back to work. Right?
Okay.
It happens in all professions, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to it, at the very least, we've got some people that were getting paid for a job and services that they've absolutely failed on, right?
Right.
So at the very least, we've got people that are getting paid for something that they shouldn't get paid for because they suck at what they do. Let's just put it out there. They suck at what they do.
Is there such thing as a bad city clerk? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would think so. And is there such a thing as a bad lawyer?
Yeah.
Yeah, that goes without question, right?
Right.
And so, are there people that just show up and punch the time clock?
I'm not calling these people bad.
No. I'm just what I'm doing is I'm putting on the two sides of the teeter-totter, the two sides of the level, right? Two sides of the scale.
Sure.
What from the very least it could be to the very most it could be, and it could be a combination of anything in between. So this way, we're going to dispel any tinfoil hat conspiracy. It's not conspiracy. What I'm saying is, for us to be in the position we're at right now, it either involved people not doing what they were paid to do,
which is the protocol,
handsomely,
right?
Even if it wasn't handsomely, if I tell you I'm going to do something and you pay me 50 cents for it, then I deserve to give 100% because I agreed to the 50%.
By contract.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've got people that have been paid to do this very thing, and they did not. Okay, so that's on the very far side of that spectrum. And if we go to the very other side of the spectrum,
deliberate.
It could be deliberate, in which at some point in time it could be criminal.
Well, malfeasance at minimum.
Misfeasance, but criminal.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Criminally malfeasant.
That's right.
You know,
and so those are the two sides of the spectrum. Now, I would happen to believe that it's probably closer to the first part of the spectrum,
or leaning towards the middle.
Not all the way to that beginning, but somewhere just off that line a little bit, and probably not even close to the middle or to the right of criminal. But the fact of the matter is, if I tell you, if you accept to do a job for me for a certain amount of money, especially if it's not my money, if it's taxpayer money, and then you fail to do that job, in my book, in my opinion only, that's criminal in my book.
Well, that's what I was asking Penny. How many errors do you make as a government position? Like, how many errors do you get?
It's like being a meteorologist. You can be wrong every day and still get promoted.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. I mean, but we're talking about we're talking about 2 appointed positions. We're not talking about voting from the people.
No, we're not. They're not elected positions, though. These are positions that people contract for. People.
They're not. This is a job.
Bid.
This is a job.
They put in estimates and bids for this.
This is not an elected position, which means this is a career for them.
That's right.
This is a job. So at their job, since it's sort of like government positions, how many times do they? I mean, like, what the protocol of how many errors do they get before they're fired?
Well, yeah, it's not like 3 strikes and you're out, right?
Well, I mean,
it's like you can continue to strike.
For an example, if I get a job at McDonald's, they'll give me 2 or 3 times no call, no show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe 1 time, and then if you do it again, you're fired.
Or
right?
if your job is to make sure that the burgers are cooked on both sides and you only cook them on one side.
Yeah, they're only going to give you how many shots?
Yeah, well, some supervisors are going to come down and tell you once, second time you're gone.
Right. So I'm thinking, like, when you're talking about something like this, how many times are you going to deal with? Hi, Penny.
Hey,
Penny's on the show now. So no, I mean, how many times are you going to get before there's some sort of?
I don't know. I just wish I had that many times to make a mistake before I was let go, right?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's almost like the government officials, like people on boards. I'm not talking about Hillsdale City in general. I'm just saying. I'm not talking about Hillsdale City
specifically.
Yeah,
you're talking in general.
I'm talking in general. It just appears that we always want to give people in government more chances.
Well, no. It's not that it appears that we want to. It appears that when this shift happened, during the 20th century, when the progressives absolutely dismantled the architecture of the Constitution, it was supposed to be that we the people are at the top, local government is just below that, state government's just below that, and then federal government was at the very, very bottom. They had the least amount of power. In fact, they had very defined small enumerated powers in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1 through 17. So they only had 17 powers, and all of them were external. In fact, the taxing was all external as well.
We'll get into the supremacy sphere.
Yeah. So what happened though is when we turned this over and everybody goes, I mean, think about it. How many people have we met just in the last year that go, well, the federal government outranks us on that, so it doesn't matter if we make that law. And I'm like, I meet
people every day.
Lord,
every day, literally.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, by the way, Penny, I wasn't recording when you set the mic and you said hi. So you go ahead and say hi to everybody again.
Hi, everybody.
So I hear people every day say that, John.
Yeah.
Honestly.
So here's the thing. So when we allow that, it's because people think that somehow they are the bottom, and that somehow these people on these local boards are above them. They're not. They serve the people. They are not above the people. They are below the people. And apathy is a bad taskmaster. We are so apathetic. I mean, think about it. We're not even a good democracy. And that's exactly what they try to push us to, but we're not even a good democracy. Because when we always go, well, as long as 51% of the people want it, well, you can't get 51% of the people to show up and even vote. So in Hillsdale County, when only half the people that are eligible to vote have gone to get registered to vote.
Wait, and eligible? What do you mean by that?
You mean like felons? Yeah, felons.
No. Eligible to run for a position. What we're talking about today.
Oh, geez, yeah, that's. Oh, now wait a minute. Now, one of the things that came up in what we were talking about earlier is somebody said, well, we found that to make somebody live in the city 3 years before they can run is unconstitutional, or somebody came up with that. I think their legal counsel came to that conclusion on his very own, which is extraordinary, because even the Constitution puts time limits in which someone has to live somewhere before they can run for a position. In fact, if we go to Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution, it says, no person shall be a representative who shall not have attained to the age of 25 years. Oh, so they can even put a limit on how old they have to be.
Obviously, they do this in the executive branch with the president, right?
They did the same thing. And then it says, and been 7 years a citizen of the United States. Okay, and been so are we saying if, let's say somebody from Russia comes here and they're only here a year and they want to run for Congress, should we let them? No, because it says they have to be 7 years a citizen, right?
Right.
So, and there's a reason for that. That's because it takes 7 years for them to be here to have some skin in the game to know that they're not foreign collusion, right?
Right.
And so,
influence.
That's the word. Here's the other thing. So this Mr. Jennings, I don't know the man. I have nothing bad to say. But how do we know that he has any skin in the game in this community? How do we know that he won't screw up at his job next week and have to look for a job somewhere else and move out and never even be here long enough to even be in the election? We don't know. This is why we have in the charter, which someone has deemed unconstitutional, a 3-year time limit to live in the city so that we can so that they can show that they've got skin in the game. Now, if that's unconstitutional, then isn't it unconstitutional to make someone be in this country 7 years, a citizen, before they can run
Go ahead, Penny.
as state representative?
You look like you're almost raising your hand there.
Sorry.
Well, if he were to win this election,
Get it up on your mouth.
If
there.
he
Yeah.
were to win this election, he takes an oath to follow the charter.
Oh.
It's like, okay,
except for those parts that somebody's deemed unconstitutional.
You know what we need to get is a copy from French of the oath and see what he's actually taking an oath to. I mean, whether it be the charter or the U.S. Constitution or how they word that game, like
I have it recorded someplace because I record.
Because I think each community does it slightly different.
Right, but basically it's still set up by the template that Article 6 says they have to do.
Well, obviously, John,
Article 2.
obviously, Mr. French thought this was unconstitutional because he saw some case laws from the 70s, which I don't care if they're from the I don't care if they're from 1800s. The case law doesn't matter about the how far back it goes, but obviously there's 3 case laws out there that said that judges said that this was unconstitutional. So he took that to Lovinger. Lovinger has deemed it unconstitutional as well. Okay. So I'm trying to, I'm playing devil's advocate here.
Okay.
I'm a pro-constitutionalist, right?
Yep.
So if there
not
was,
if you're devil's advocate, because I'm the pro-constitutionalist. But go ahead.
But no, what I'm saying is obviously if the charter is doing something unconstitutional, we don't have to abide by it. We don't have to work with it. So I'm trying to figure out how is it considered unconstitutional? Why they consider? I don't have those case laws. This is why we needed a public statement because we don't have.
If they are executive branch of government. Executive branch of government takes an oath to the Constitution to uphold, serve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, right? That's what the executive takes an oath to do. So the executive
I learn every day with you, John.
The executive branch of government has the power of the sword.
I'm taking your word for all this.
Okay, well, I can show it to you. But the executive power is the power of the sword. Right?
Yeah.
So as the power of the sword, if I see something that is contrary to Article 6, is not in pursuance thereof the Constitution, then it is against my oath to enforce or use the power of the sword against the citizenry on something that is not pursuant thereof the Constitution. It is not with the Constitution. However, the legislature, which we are talking about, a legislative branch of government, when they are creating laws, they have to follow those laws that they create.
This actually goes back to what I was playing the glass house throwing stones, because during the sheriff campaign, we talked about the idea that the sheriff can't pick and choose laws
That's
that
correct.
he wants to
He
enforce.
can't.
So people are going
He has to
call
enforce the
the kettle
Constitution.
black, but that's the executive branch.
That's right, because they have the power of the sword. So here's it's so very important to understand what powers, what positions of government have. This is the whole reason for the separation of powers and the checks and balance system in a Republican form of government. Not a democracy, but a Republican form of government. And this is what it means to understand Americanism, is to understand Republican form of government. And that is, the legislative branch has two powers. They're the biggest and most, they're the largest and most powerful branch of government. And because of such, they need to be the most responsive to the people. But when we look at it, they have two powers. And that power is the power of the purse and the power of impeachment. Now, we've got a bicameral legislature in the federal government. Now, the reason why we have that is because, one, the Senate has the power of impeachment, not the representatives.
Right.
And there's the other group, the representatives, that have the power of the purse, not the Senate.
That's right.
And this is why we've got things so backwards right now, is because we've got budget bills that, like Tim Walberg and some of the rest of them are putting in and going, well, we couldn't get enough votes in the Senate. I'm sorry, Tim, but you don't have to have votes in the Senate for a revenue bill, because the representatives hold that power exclusively.
Hey, Penny, go ahead and get in on that. You were going to talk.
Well, I was just, they found out 2 weeks ago that this guy hadn't been...
Well, he double spoke. He did say that he knew about this already, but then he said 2 weeks ago.
Well,
it didn't become a problem
a few weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago, whatever
why
it was.
is it that nobody on city council knew about it?
Yeah, like, why wasn't it brought up, you mean?
Right. He's an employee. He is not somebody that should be making these decisions unilaterally, and neither should be our city attorney.
Well, that's what I found strange, is that they're employees. They're not. They're
appointed. They're not elected.
They're not elected positions.
Yeah.
So I'm
And the other thing is, with those positions, they're supposed to be. Let's say, could I go in and go, hey, I got no training on being a city clerk. Can I put my bid in? No, they're going to laugh me out, right? Because they want people that are qualified.
Yeah,
and I'm doing air quotation marks.
They're the qualifiers.
And the same thing with
right?
legal counsel. Can I just go and go, I'd like to be the legal counsel for the city? No.
What about the city manager? Does the city manager he should know about the charter too?
Sure,
I would think.
that's why he's been. That's why he's had the schooling that he's had.
He's staying quiet, huh?
Yeah, well, sometimes there's a lot to
I will defend him. He just got back from vacation.
Oh, okay, so he doesn't know about all this, huh?
But sometimes the best part of valor sometimes is discretion.
Well,
right?
I'm obviously going to call David Mackey tomorrow to see what he has to say about it. I got to get an at least official statement by him.
Monday.
Or at least
Monday, right? It's Friday.
Or at least official hang-up.
Yeah.
One of the two.
So, I didn't really get much out of French. Hopefully Lovinger calls me back on Monday, because actually that's where that blunt force is really at, because
that's
he's
where the
legal
rubber
counsel.
meets the road right there.
Yeah. And then also, essentially, since these are appointed positions, Hillsdale City should not be in crosshairs, period, right? Because they have appointed positions that
to limit and to limit the liability to the citizenry of the city.
Right.
And that's why those two people are in those two key positions, because that's primarily their job,
right,
is to insulate and protect the citizenry from this sort of thing.
Right. So if it is unconstitutional and they decide not to do it, he's liable, both Lovinger and French. If it is constitutional, they're both guilty as well. It's like they're guilty either way.
Yeah, it's a bad penny, right?
Yeah,
no. Penny as in copper.
Yeah, penny Swan.
Penny as in it's a bad nickel. Okay, I don't know of anybody named Nickel. So it's a bad nickel, right? It's dirty on one side and corroded on the other. It doesn't matter whichever side you pick. It's bad.
At this point, in this particular situation, I'm not saying Mr. French is a bad dude.
No,
right? I'm not saying Mr. Lovinger is a bad dude at all.
Anybody is a bad dude.
What I'm saying is they're the ones culpable at this point, and they're liable at this point.
On this
particular issue, right? Because they're the ones that should have known this in the charter. If they did know about it in the past, it hasn't been changed. That's the question I kept asking Mr. French, is why hasn't it changed?
Okay, now let's
why wasn't it brought up to city council?
Exactly. Because it would have been city council would have had to say, okay, let's put it on the ballot.
Hey
and
guys,
get it changed.
to be fair, I haven't asked all of city council. Okay, so like I don't want to sit there and
right,
make accusations here.
But we're not. But for the fact of the matter is,
It might have been brought
what
up to
Penny
some of
said.
them.
Well, what Penny said, it hasn't come to the floor, right?
Well, why
So if it hasn't come to the
Right.
floor,
Yeah.
well, if it hasn't come to the floor, it hasn't come to any of the council members, right?
Right.
Because wouldn't you think that they would happen to have an obligation to have to bring it to the floor once they knew about it?
Now, what? Now,
I would think that they would
asked
be
Adam-
culpable if they didn't.
And when I asked Adam about this too, he was he was carefully choosing his words with me too,
Oh.
because I was asking about the like what happens now. Like is there going to be some sort of form of punishment? Like what do we do? Like how do you punish someone? Like would you give them like a week's off without pay? I mean, like what is the protocol?
No. In government, what we do is we give them a week off with pay. So
Yeah.
we actually encourage that behavior.
with a basket of cheese and sausage.
Yeah, we encourage the behavior. We never discourage.
That's what I'm
it.
saying. Like, what is the protocol for a punishment when you have stuff like this happen? Like I said, they're wrong on either way at this point.
But now let's pull the veil away from council right now.
Okay.
Not legal council, but city council,
City
the elected
council.
positions. If you know now that you've been operating on a charter in which something's been illegal for 40 years,
Why hasn't one of them make a public statement regardless?
Well, my thing is, if it's been illegal for 40 years, number one, why aren't you moving heaven and earth to have it changed? Because what you're saying is, I don't mind operating unconstitutional.
Yeah, why not have a special meeting?
Exactly.
It's legal. It's all right. Kissing your sister's okay. It's not against the law, but it's not moral, is it? And this is the same thing. If you've been operating on something for 40 years and you've known for any period of time that it's unconstitutional, and yet you've continued to operate that way, then
I mean, obviously, this goes on past members. This goes on past appointed positions.
40 years. We're talking 40 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if Hillsdale County ain't operating on a charter, why the hell you think the city's going to give a shit about their charter? I'm just saying.
You got a point there now, don't you?
I'm just saying.
But I know the majority of city council does appreciate and want to follow the charter, because that was part of David Mackey's contract negotiations.
Hell, I'm sure they do, Penny. But I mean, like, I'm pretty sure, just like anybody else, they haven't read the Constitution. They probably didn't read the charter. And let's be fair.
I know a lot of people want to be Christian until they're at the strip club and bar.
How many Christians actually read the Bible, right?
Very few.
Yeah, so there you go. So I mean, that's what I'm saying. So I'm sure that whole board 100% want to do right by the people. But the fact of the matter is, they take on a position. They take it on. Nobody made them do this.
And that's the other thing. I get really tired of people going, "Oh, you're beating people up. That's just no. I'm not going after people for having a sty on their eye, something that they can't control. I'm not going after people because they stutter. I'm not going after people because one leg's shorter than the other. I'm going after people
I
that
sometimes
chose.
tease people
I know.
like that.
See, I know you are. You're just like that. But
I got no hair. I tease bald people.
But they chose that position. In fact, not only did they choose that position, but they spent a lot of money and a lot of effort to get that position. So at that point in time, not my circus, not my monkey.
Yeah, it's free game.
Yeah, that's right. You chose it. You can't cry about it at this point.
Yeah, and they should expect the criticism. I mean, I cannot believe what I see.
If we are not critical of our government, who will be?
Yeah, I mean, it's bizarre to me to see when you start criticizing, I don't know, anybody in particular, the blowback that you get from the criticism. You're it's bizarre.
Yeah, you get called every name in the book. Oh, look, they're.
I mean, it's like
anti-law enforcement. No.
It's so sensitive. Everybody's so sensitive. The fact of the matter is, we have to be critical of these positions. Are we going to be constantly having these talks?
But see, that's a Republican form of government, is being critical of the government. This is why, in a Republican form of government, we the people actually sign the first law that is keeping them in check, which is the charter or the Constitution, whether it's state or federal. So that is the law that the people sign to keep the government in check.
Well, John,
the charter is Hillsdale City's Constitution.
That's right. So we are supposed to be critical.
For the last 2 days, we talked about why didn't they just follow the charter, and if something's unconstitutional, let them bring it to the table.
I'm sure Mr. Jennings would sue if they said, well, I'm sorry, you can't run. And he thought for sure that he was eligible, that he should be able to. He would sue.
Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe from an elected position or an appointed position, maybe it's better to try to defend yourself from being sued. I don't really know. And that we need to get Levenger's statement. That's why there needs to be a public statement, because we actually don't have all the pieces of the puzzle.
We don't want to give a public statement. We want people to come up with things in their own head so we can go, see, they're all conspiracy theorists. They're beating up on us.
I agree. It would be nice to have more info out there so we can make an educated guess. I mean, right now, we've
not got an entire spectrum.
Educated guesses.
Right.
We've got an entire spectrum.
Right.
The two spectrums I've given.
But the information we do know is, damn, they're wrong either way, right?
We know this Hillsdale City Charter says 3 years, and we know that Peter Jennings has not lived in the city for 3 years,
right.
And we know he's on the ballot.
And we know that the appointed position should know the charter, and they should have caught this when he started their positions, right? Mm-hmm. They should have, because I know even if it's like 500 pages or whatever it is, they could have read it within the year.
Well, my thing is, how many pieces of paper and contracts has the city legal counsel read to get his law license, right? So I'm sure 500 pages is nothing for him, right? Because a lot of times, a lot of that stuff is pretty redundant, and you can look at a phrase and go, "Oh, that's a whole harmless clause." Okay, that's common.
Well, he's also got a team too.
That's right. That's right.
I ain't trying to hear all that garbage.
So my thing is,
too much noise.
My thing is, this.
That's not
there's really no excuse.
To be honest with you, that's not including counsel. I mean, counsel could have read it too.
But there's, But my thing is,
I read it before I ran.
Let's go to who gets paid for it, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly.
City legal counsel gets paid for that.
Yeah, that's like you said. That's where the rubber meets the road.
That's right. And if it was been 40 years illegal, and then all of a sudden, oops, hey, sorry, city, I forgot to read that part and protect you against any potential lawsuit. I mean, hey, let's just go with it.
Even if it's deemed constitutional, I mean, we don't even know if it's constitutional at this point. It's I mean, we don't know if it's not constitutional.
I got a pretty good idea that it is constitutional.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
If it's in in Article 1, Section 2.
How are you going to make? You know what's funny is Adam told me. Adam was waiting on a statement from the Attorney General, and the Attorney General told him he don't handle those local laws like that.
And it's not like Shooty knows the Constitution either.
Well, I didn't even think about it, because when he first told me, I'm like, oh, okay, he's going to wait for the Attorney General. Well, the funny thing is that's state level issues. Mm-hmm. Why the hell we can't call it? Why is Adam calling the Attorney General? Why isn't John Levenger?
Yeah,
why is he? What's going on here? That tells me that Adam actually is questioning John Levenger's opinion, right? Why is he calling? Why is our mayor calling the Attorney General? Where's David Mackey at this?
Why is all these people have to go to their own legal counsel to find out stuff when they should be going to the city council?
Bizarre. I mean, like, what's going on
here? Bizarre world, yeah.
So like, it just shows the level of insecurity that we have at this point, and I don't blame them, because I would too. I mean, honestly.
Well, at some point in time, all these lawsuits that the city keeps getting hit with, at some point in time, their insurance company's going to go, you know what, you're on your own, because we're not covering it.
And the little cloud that carries with them with the Marcus Allen thing. So like, we got a little bit of dark cloud over Levenger. I hear all kinds of rumor mills about the gentleman. But he seemed pretty pleasant with me on the phone, but also he hasn't provided his insurance. Like he told me personally
that he promised you. Well, he didn't promise, but he did say, the man's word is his word, right?
Yeah. He promised that he would get me personally his insurance paper. Because why hasn't Stephen French? Why didn't he do this job? Why didn't he call? Is that his job? Is to call when someone applies or gets appointed?
Stephen French's job is...
Or no, it's David Mackey, right?
No. Stephen French's job is if I come in and I go, I want to run for...
it's elections. Yeah.
I want to run for... I want for whatever elected position. He's supposed to look at that and go, well, I'm sorry, Mr. Rutan, but you're a citizen of Canada. Right. And not a citizen of the United States. We can't put you on. I got 500. I got 500 signatures on.
I can't wait for Monday, by the way, because I'm going to go in and apply for Ward 1, just so you guys know.
Yeah. Well, just to be turned down. And when you go, why am I being turned down? Well, because we got these certain election laws that you got to. Okay.
Yeah, so they're going to pick
and
choose.
They know those. Yeah. They know those. So yeah, this is exactly my point.
John? Whose job is it to, when an attorney like John Levenger applies to a city and a city appoints your attorney, your firm, whose job is it to double check that you have the insurance and that it's real legit insurance.
So see, here's the thing. I brought this up with the county.
Why is a citizen from Somerset Center
let me
calling?
go through a little scenario here so you can kind of understand. Me, general public, Neanderthal.
Yeah, that's how I'm Neanderthal, right?
Somebody with letters behind their name. Very smart dude. No longer Neanderthal. Okay, so smart a caveman can't do it. So what it comes down to, I went to Ruth Brown here a few years ago, and I said, why aren't we making sure that these lawyers that we're paying good money to for criminal defense, why is it that we're not making sure that they have malpractice insurance?
You talk about like Kim Berger.
Well,
right?
Any of them.
Okay.
We got Rod Dunham. He does defense. We've got Kim Berger. She does defense. We've got Mr. Paulson used to do defense.
Okay. Whoever.
Thomas
okay.
Thompson and Lovinger. They're on. We've got other ones that are doing like Tim Dixon. He did some in probate court. We've got some that did just probate court, that were lawyers just for probate court. But the fact of the matter is, they're operating as contractors to the county. Now, when I asked Ruth Brown about that, Ruth said, well, I don't know. Let me go ask Judge Smith about it. And I said, so she called me back and she said, well, Judge Smith says that they're professional people. And so we don't necessarily ask them for that paperwork. We just assume that they have it. Okay, well, you know what? If I was being charged with anything in Mr. Smith's courtroom, nothing would be assumed of me, right? So because I'm Joe Public Neanderthal, so stupid a caveman can't do it. And this is part of the problem. And so we do this. Oh, well, we've got this hierarchy of these people are the good people because they're on the Exchange Club and they're on all these different groups and they're all.
Well, I don't know if John Lovinger's on all that stuff.
But he's
elitist, right?
But follow me, follow me. It's this: you belong to the right group. Sure, you get picked in the first round at kickball when you show up at the playground, right?
I always got picked
and
first.
then you've got the group of kids like Ted
like
Jansen and
like John
Wayne
Rutan.
Scott and John Rutan.
We
don't get picked because we don't have Levi jeans on.
Well,
we're wearing Keds
and you're marginalized.
Tennis shoes.
And you're marginalized.
Yeah, and I'm marginalized. See, so this is what we've run into. So my thing is, whose job is it to make sure that the person you're hiring has the appropriate
whose job
insurance?
Is to make sure
the person that's hiring them.
And who is that?
Okay, in Rutan Management.
No. Who hired John Lovinger?
If in Rutan Management, if I've got a job going on, and let's say I have to hire 5 different subcontractors. Let's say I have to hire an excavator, a painter, a flat work concrete worker, and a mason and electrician. Okay, I have insurance. If I have insurance and those people are working on that job, my insurance says, okay, you better pull a rider from each and every one of those people, making sure that they have liability insurance. So let's say I don't. At the end of the year, the insurance company audits me and they go, okay, where's this excavator? You paid him $30,000 and we don't see a rider. Where's the rider for his liability insurance? Geez, I didn't check. Let me call him. Oh, I'm sorry, he's passed away. We don't have any records. And so I come back to tell my insurance company, well, he passed away. I don't have any records. You know what my insurance company tells me? Okay, well, we're going to have to charge you for his what it would have cost him for liability for that $30,000 while he was on that job. So you owe us another $8,000 for his liability insurance.
Well, hold on, John. So you're telling me that, okay, so the city recently, when I say recently, like last month, got John Lovinger's insurance paperwork. Okay, they just got it. They didn't have it prior. They didn't have it on record. So you're telling me if there was an audit, and they say if John Lovinger passed away between that audit or whatever, and they came and said, we want to see that writer's insurance, we would have had to fork that money out?
It's
Potentially?
very possible. It's very possible. I'm not saying it is because I don't know what type of insurance that the city has.
And government might run slightly different.
Yeah, well, we know it does in a lot of other things, right? Like I can't have one general fund, or that's called commingling of funds. It's a felony.
Yeah, you can't commingle. That's
Yeah,
right.
so,
you can't legally steal.
Yeah, well, that's true. Doggone it, I didn't realize how bad everything was stacked against
Well,
me.
Penny,
Well,
you,
let's just change the law and make that legal.
yeah, no doubt. Yeah,
well, see, and this is the whole reason why a charter is voted on by the people, so that
if they want something, they change it real quick when they want
But
it.
you
right?
see what I'm saying? This is why our founding fathers said that these laws, the legislatures can't vote on the laws that govern them.
Right.
For that very reason, for that exact very reason.
Penny, in your opinion, I mean, like, obviously for someone like John and I, this is like the good stuff, right? This is the cream of the crop type stuff in a local community, at least.
No, this is the cringe stuff. This is the stuff that makes me cringe.
Oh, well, I mean, this is stuff we like because we like operating within the Constitution. This is I don't know. This is sort of boring to the average citizen. What do you think, Penny? Because you're pretty interested in politics, obviously.
What are you doing? Calling her the average citizen?
No, she's more average than we are, I would think. I mean, but you seem pretty upset about this, Penny.
I am very upset because I didn't run 2 years ago because I read the charter and I wasn't eligible because I had just moved.
Oh, you should have just threw your name in for shits and giggles, huh?
Yeah,
No?
exactly.
Wait a minute. Now let's.
How many other people were out there that wanted to run and didn't because
Penny.
they read the charter?
Penny, it doesn't matter how many there were. For the fact is, we know we've got one. Here was something I was discussing with someone earlier because I didn't know that this had happened. I said, you know what? If this had happened to someone else and they allow Peter Jennings to go through with this, then that person that didn't and could have, but didn't because they didn't feel that they'd lived there long enough, has a great lawsuit against the city.
And the other thing that makes me very mad is he was okayed. His petition went through. He's on the ballot, and he doesn't meet the requirements in our charter.
Yeah, so
It's like our city's constitution.
we're in the crosshairs of a lawsuit either way.
That's right. So the best thing they could
Wow.
have done, the best thing,
They
the
should
best
just
thing,
damn charter.
Yeah.
but the best thing that Mr. French could have done is said, well, here's the deal, Mr. Jennings, I cannot put you on the ballot because of our charter. Now, there's others that believe that the charter's unconstitutional, so you can and probably should sue the city so that we can get it into court and get it fixed. That's what but the fact of the matter is this is what our charter says.
Yeah, get off.
So we have to follow
Yeah,
it until it's changed.
And maybe the city could take the position of not being prideful and just say, you know what, we made an error. There was an error that was written in here from
them
a long
not
time
being
ago.
arrogant?
Yeah.
Then who would they be?
And then like just I'm sure he probably wouldn't even sue. They would just probably fix it, or if he did sue, it'd be kind of just out of court type thing.
Here's the thing. Sometimes, and people always go, well, if it's a lawsuit, it's because everybody hates each other. No. Let's get this mindset that two people that are opposite sides of a lawsuit are adversarial to one another. They're horrible,
Not at all.
angry. That's not it at all. Sometimes it takes a lawsuit, and people know this in business. Sometimes it's like, well, you know what? I can't do anything about that until you sue me because I can't give it over to my insurance until you sue me, right? And I see this in construction sometimes. You're going to go, well, this is bigger than what I can take care of, and this is why I have insurance. So what you're going to have to do is sue me. And, we're still playing golf on Saturday. I don't care. But we need to do that to start my lawsuit,
At least in my experiences, it's the pride that is what.
Sure, it's arrogance.
That's what I see.
It's arrogance. Absolute arrogance.
At least in the government in Hillsdale County.
Sure.
I'm just saying in general.
Sure, it's the arrogance because we've bred this thing that somehow those in government are above us common Neanderthals.
And this was all found out by mistake. Well, I guess not mistake, but there was a meet and greet for the Ward
You mean
1.
it probably wasn't found. It was probably revealed.
Revealed.
That's
Yes,
a better choice
Is a
of
better,
words.
much better.
Obviously it's revealed to some people
Right.
priorhand, right?
And Mr. Jennings couldn't be there, so he sent City Councilman Greg Stuchel, his next door neighbor. And
Is that normal? I mean, at least I haven't seen that in Hillsdale yet. I'm sure it's probably been. I mean, I'm sure it's not uncommon across the country, but where you have another city council member that sort of campaigns for you like that.
I have never seen it.
Have you, John? Does that ring a bell? I mean, I understand, like, if like a mayor was stepping down, he's like, oh, I want to appoint this guy. Well, you got John Burko that's promoting Tim Shaw.
Yeah, that's,
So,
I
but
see.
that's another board member on the
But
same
do-
board,
Do
right?
they live next door to each other?
Oh, is that what they live next door to each other?
Greg and Peter are next door neighbors.
Oh, okay. I mean, I don't know if that makes it any worse or better. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, it's like
The
what part of the ward is really going to be representative? Is he
there's probably 30, 40 feet between their houses. So.
Yeah. But
So three people?
It was discovered because Greg Stuchel went over Peter's history and that he came to Hillsdale College and he had been here 2 years and
Oop, bing, 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 bing.
yeah.
Winner, chicken dinner.
yeah. So you
Dennis, myself, and Ted's eyes were like,
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine what like Ted and Dennis is feeling about this, right? Because not only.
I know how they're feeling about this because I was the kid that didn't get picked for the kickball team because
Well,
I come from the wrong side of the tracks.
Well, obviously, they're not going to get the college support, right? So, this is obviously almost like a streamline. He's probably going to win, right?
Well, it's kind of like
if we're gambling, we would all three of us would gamble on Jennings, right?
Here's the thing:
Is that fair to say?
Anybody watch Caddyshack? Remember Caddyshack?
Jeez.
And
Yeah,
Ted,
when I was like 5.
I hate these young kids. But Caddyshack, you had Ted Knight. He's the judge, the top-notch elitist. And then here comes Rodney Dangerfield, who happens to be the accidental millionaire.
Mm-hmm.
And he's allowed into the club because they have to allow him into the club, but they don't like him.
Right.
This is exactly this type of situation that, well, we don't want to have to let these guys into the club, so let's find somebody else that we want into the club with us.
I understand that's the optics. I get it.
Sure.
I mean, I see that. I don't think there's the conspiracy. Well, maybe the conspiracy is there. I don't know. I see.
I'm not
optics
saying
of
it's a
that.
conspiracy. I'm saying it's natural. It's natural.
It's natural law.
It's natural law. It's self-evident truth because if it wasn't, kids on the playground wouldn't do it.
Well, I do know they're already out there approaching people to run in case Peter steps down or
can't
is
run.
not allowed to run.
Well, I'm going to try to contact Peter.
There you go, John. There's your chance.
Well, I'm already going
If
Monday.
they're looking for people to run, there you
I think
are.
all three of us should go down there and put our name in the hat.
I actually
don't-
live in the city.
Yeah, see.
What are you trying to say? You're more validated than I am?
Yeah, no, because that would be unconstitutional of her to
That's
say
right.
that.
Yeah. So it's a bizarre situation, and I think the problem that we're having here is that Hillsdale City is in the crosshairs on either side at this point, and I think it's a nasty situation, and there's no reason why Hillsdale City should be in this situation.
But I think we can agree on one thing. They're in this situation because of their own doing, not because it was something thrust upon them. It was because of their own doing, either ignorance or
the
by
spectrum.
design.
Yeah, that spectrum
it's
that we're talking about.
their fault. It's their problem.
Yeah, I mean, when they, I could, I didn't get an official statement, so I can easily think in my mind, like, they, say if Mr. French saw it 2 years ago, and he was like, well, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, because it doesn't apply to anybody.
It doesn't
right now.
happen that
It doesn't.
often, that type of thing. So, like, well, it's not, I'm not even going to be worried about it.
Yeah, I'm not going to bring it up to
And-
people because I got other things to do. So.
Right, like, I'm so busy, because I know the clerk's busy.
Yeah, I mean, I could even at that point in time, I could even have some sympathy for him and go, geez.
Yeah.
Now on this particular incident, I can't have any sympathy for him.
No, it's
because
too
I'm
late
like-
now, right?
Yeah, it's like, dude, you screwed up at your job.
And this is a major screw up in my mind. This
Oh,
is
yeah,
an
it's huge.
elected official that is going to represent the people.
Penny, he done already been accused in another area, right? What was it, Kalamazoo or wherever he was? I mean,
Kalamazoo, Grand Rapids, somewhere up in that area.
yeah, I mean, he's already been accused already.
But those things you see on the internet that says you only had one job. This just kind of strikes me as that
Like,
thing.
I'm
You
not-
only had one job.
Listen, you guys know that I got a tainted past. So I mean, like, I'm not sitting here going, "Oh my God, this guy has a tainted past." I'm just saying, like, it's for the same damn shit, and it's government related.
Well, here's the thing. Even if no one on the last two allegations, if people were to go, oh, well, those are just allegations, and somebody were to go, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. At this point in time, it erases the benefit of the doubt.
John,
It just does.
I've been caught stealing on a felony level 2 times, right?
Mhm.
If I haven't stolen since I was 24, so
Right.
I'm 16 years now, right?
Right.
Almost 17 years. If I went out and got caught stealing today,
Oh yeah, it's done.
What would you think?
Yeah, nobody's gonna. Or let's say you got caught and it was one of those borderline things.
Yeah.
People are gonna go, no, he's a freaking crook. He was stealing.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
this makes me wonder what else is he in the city is not being vetted and follow the ordinance.
Dun,
That's
dun,
another
dun.
that's another thing that really bothers me when stuff like this happens at City Hall. It's like, okay, what else? This came out.
Yeah, how many
What
elections?
else
How many
is
elections
not
and how many
coming
people
out?
has he
But see,
gone through?
but that's the whole thing. They do this so that they can go, well, they're not transparent, and then they want to complain about anybody that comes up with a conspiracy.
I mean,
come on. Either be transparent or let people come up with conspiracies, but you can't complain
Yeah,
about
because obviously, as you guys heard in the conversation, he did not want to have a real
No,
statement
he
or
was
conversation or nothing.
No, he's
He's like pulling teeth.
He's a smarter man than what he came off on the on that conversation with you. So that tells me right there, this man did not get in his position, does not have that job because he's an idiot. He's not obtuse.
Penny, I didn't even think about that.
He's an intentional person. He's a very intelligent person. So for him to come off like that was intentionally obtuse.
Penny,
because the man is not obtuse.
I did not think about the vetting of the prior people that he's vetted.
And you're supposed to vet. They're supposed to vet. You have to get like 25 signatures, all verifiable, and that they're registered voters. Are all those signatures being vetted?
Listen, this is some serious shit.
Well, then
It's
you've
very
got,
serious.
But then you've got who counts the absentee ballots, and we have a lot of absentee ballots.
Right.
He does.
He does.
Is he not vetting them? And see, this was the allegation where he came from.
See, the road beats the rubber at Lovinger.
I think so too. I think that's the. I
And
think
Stephen
that's
French
the
is
number
the
one problem.
driver of the car.
That's right. That's right.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Because I mean, this is
Yeah. One's the TC. One's the driver.
This
That's
is
just how it is.
This is absolutely horrible when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to take that spectrum and go from one side being a mistake to the other side being criminal, it could easily shift to criminal.
Well, here's the thing.
And-
Those two ends of the spectrum aren't that far apart now, are they?
Yeah,
They're
they-
very close
I
together.
lost by 14 votes, and Steven does not like me.
yeah, exactly. Can you imagine that, John?
Without even making any,
Not- yeah,
making an
not-
allegation.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
That makes you go, what's that thing? The things that make you go,
Huh? Yeah.
this is a
Yeah.
weird situation. I don't even know how he's going to be able to keep his job after this. I mean, if I was on council, I'd have to release him, even at this point.
If I was him, I'd be looking for another position before I got.
In fact,
To me, this is a huge issue.
In fact, the citizens should demand him to be released.
Yeah, it was,
unfortunately.
it was his job to make. And I hate that he has to be the patsy for something that Lovinger should have been. But the people should be just as adamant to we need new legal counsel.
That's for sure too.
Yeah.
But I mean, with just by optics alone, he has to be. I would think you would have to
At least
remove him by
discipline.
optics. How
Well,
could
at
you
least
save face on this?
At least discipline.
At least if he
Discipline?
vetted the guy, like
What
John
the-
said.
Wait, so he could do it again?
if John,
I mean, like, are you serious, John? This is so.
I said at least.
This is so horrible when you think about it, because when Penny just brought that up,
Yeah, that's
instantly it sent chills down my back. Okay, this is absolutely horrific. Do you know how much rigging? I mean, like, all the conspiracy theories stuff goes off in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Sure.
So like, you cannot.
It's a
you
very
cannot-
short. It's a very short jump. And
Listen,
and the other thing
whether
is,
he
if
did or
government
didn't do
loses,
it-
but if government loses the faith of the people, then government is no more.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Either if he did or didn't do it, he's irrelevant at this point.
That's right.
The optics of it is he did it.
That's right.
Okay, so like, it's irrelevant whether he did or didn't do it. So now
In a court
everybody,
of public opinion, he's guilty.
yeah. If you wanted to go the preponderance of evidence, he did it.
Yeah, that's true.
He's got to go.
That's true.
Unfortunately, and I have nothing against the guy,
No, I have nothing personal against
but he
him at
has
all.
to go. I cannot trust him at this point. Now, anything that goes on for the future, I cannot trust this guy. Just-
Not in that position.
it should
Right.
have been brought to council when he should have vetted him. Said,
Yeah.
you know,
And you're
you
right,
haven't
John.
been
He's
here
going to
3
be the
years.
patsy.
It should have
Lovinger
come to
won't.
council
But
at the
Lovinger
very
should be.
least.
Yeah, Lovinger ain't going to get the blunt force of this. Stephen French,
Yeah, he's going to. Stephen French is going to take the baseball bat.
he shouldn't even bothered with this. Let
Yeah.
this go to court, and then he could they would have been.
Yeah, he's going to take the blunt force of this whole thing. And the sad thing is, he will be the patsy.
I mean, he should at least.
Well, he should be. He should. Both people in the car
I understand that.
should be pulled out and cuffed and
Yeah.
and taken away.
Coming
Not just one.
To John Lovinger, I think was only brought Attorney Lovinger was only brought into this, I think, a couple of weeks ago. Because he doesn't oversee everything. The only thing he looks at in the city is if
no.
How long has John been the legal counsel for the city?
But
off and on.
Let me finish my statement.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, good.
He doesn't look over everything. The only thing he looks over is when council or somebody in the city ask him to look at something.
No.
Yes.
He's the city attorney.
It has to be requested.
Okay, my attorney for my business
knows the Constitution.
Doesn't just wait until something happens in my business. He goes, hey, you know what? I've been looking at line 43 of your contract. I know nothing's come about on it, but we need to tweak this out just a little bit. That's his job. That's what I pay him for.
But did you give him the contract to look at?
You're telling me he didn't know the charter?
Yeah, he's got my contract.
But he didn't know anything, from my knowledge, he didn't know anything about this Peter Jennings. He didn't look at the
No. That's not what we're
talking about. What we're talking about is if it's a 3-year time limit to live in the city, to run for a position, and he's saying it's unconstitutional, it has been since the 70s, then shame on him for not knowing that a long time ago, because it's his job.
Yeah,
I thought you were talking about he should have known when.
Not this specific, but in general.
Yeah.
His job is to protect the city.
All right, I got that now.
He allowed the city to get in crosshairs.
Yeah.
That's
wrong. That's just absolutely wrong.
At this point. So they're both guilty. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think both should be removed at this point. But, honestly, I think just because a French passed, I just can't see how anybody could trust this guy in any election at this point.
Not with any election. Now, that doesn't mean that he can't be trusted at something else. But in anything dealing with any type of an election question,
John,
absolutely
John,
not.
you worked in the criminal field, right? In the prison field, right?
Yeah.
Okay. If you were working with females... Okay, you were in a female facility, which I couldn't do because I know I'd get caught messing around. But
at least you're honest about it.
Right. It wouldn't be allegations. I can tell you that. So allegations maybe.
Okay.
No. Go ahead. All right. If you got an allegation on you in that field, it would just be an allegation at that point, right? But if you had multiple allegations.
Well, let me tell you.
What happens? How does that work?
Let me tell you the reality of it, because I worked right next to Florence Crane, which was a female facility until they all went to Scott's, and I worked at Adrian and also Coldwater. A male officer working in a female institution, the only thing necessary to destroy his career is an allegation. That's it. That's all.
Would that be fair to say for Mr. French? It's sort of the same thing.
Well, not really. Let's look at men working, or let's look at women working in men's institutions.
Right.
If there was an allegation of it, you better have some awful good proof, because we weren't just going to go after an officer for absolutely no reason at all.
Right.
So you better have some pretty good proof. And so this is why when there were allegations like that, it was really got investigated well. It wasn't just well, we're gonna lock you in the bubble until we find out. No. There was an exhaustive investigation.
Yeah, but there's not exhaustive investigations when government employees quit and stuff like that. A lot of times they just let that stuff slide and they're done, right?
And sometimes rather than have egg on their face, they'll allow an employee
or spend taxpayer dollars.
Well,
and stuff like that.
An employee will go, "Hey, look, I'll walk away quiet if you let me." And they'll go, "That's good with us."
Yeah.
We don't need to push this in court. Just walk away.
I can't help but think this is sort of the same situation.
I'm not disagreeing in that.
He's like a man working in a female field or a prison system where there's allegations, obviously.
But there's been too many of them to just look the other way.
Yeah, well, and then on top of the error, I wouldn't even say this is an allegation for him to, I'm not accusing him of voter fraud or election fraud here. Obviously, there's an error here. Well, now the city is in crosshairs either way.
It puts us in a really bad spot.
It's a weird conundrum, and with no obviously public statements from the officials.
Because we want everybody to come up with some sort of conspiracy theory so that we can sit back and go, "Oh, how bad people are."
We're hashing this out as logically and honest as possible at this point. Where are we? We're not overemphasizing anything, I don't think, or exaggerating anything.
And here's the thing: if we're wrong, it's because it's only the information that we have, because it hasn't been completely transparent.
What would be wrong? We made the accusations that were made on Mr. French. Where would it be wrong? The fact of the matter is, we know that the statements that have been made, everything we have said has been true up to this point.
Okay, now, just so that we're good on these words, okay, malfeasance is an affirmative act that is illegal or wrongful. In tort law, it is distinct from misfeasance, which is an act that is not illegal but is improperly performed. It is also distinct from nonfeasance, which is a failure to act that results in injury. So
nonfeasance is the word we're looking for.
No. Misfeasance is the word we're looking for.
No, I mean if there's criminal intent.
Not malfeasance or nonfeasance, but misfeasance, which is an act that is not illegal but is improperly performed. What he did was he went to the city attorney and then followed what the city attorney did when actually his job should have been to reject Mr. Jennings's application and then taken it to counsel, to legal counsel. So it's misfeasance, not malfeasance or nonfeasance.
Well, what is it when you, in a deliberate attempt to commit a crime?
It's called government.
Well, we hammered as much as we could, I think, on this particular topic. I don't know if there's any more you think we need to add to this topic.
No, I think this is the biggest thing is we
just
need
wanted
to get it
this
to
out
the
here,
people,
right?
So that the people can decide. Because I mean, let's look at things. This city has been sued multiple times, and each time that they've been sued, there's not one person that has brought it out to the people that they're being sued. And when the city's being sued, let's make no mistake about it, it's not that someone on the city council is being sued. It's that the people themselves are being sued in the city. And when they're being sued, we never hear anything about it from any of the elected officials that are supposed to.
Yeah.
And the same thing in the county, same thing in all these different positions. So if someone doesn't bring it to the people's attention, the whole truth and nothing but the truth, then who is? Because we haven't had a free press since William Hearst.
Also, the whole truth. That's something we talk about. The perfect lie.
Ah, yes, all truth with one thing left out is the
we
perfect lie.
Got to get it all out.
That's right. The whole truth.
Penny, when is the next election? Not the next election. I'm sorry, the next council meeting.
August 6th, City Hall in Hillsdale at 7 o'clock, and I'm told that this issue is going to be on the agenda.
Well, I think it will be whether they want it to be or not.
Also, Penny, why don't you describe on how to get to City Hall, just in case we got a new listener?
Okay, somebody hasn't lived in the city 3 years.
It's right
Tell
downtown.
Jennings how to get there.
It's right downtown, across from the post office and the old Dawn Theater.
So it's in between those, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it's the Triangle building.
Yes.
And it's
not Triangle.
No,
I think it's got 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not the Wedge. The Wedge building is the Triangle building.
Oh, gotcha. So it's the building across the street from what, John?
Well, you got a Great Wall on one side, and then you got the post office on the other.
Okay, because I've been there a couple times. It's a kind of a strange setup.
It is. That was really strange how that whole city was set up right there.
I mean, the parking's weird. The parking's what, behind the post office area?
There's some right there.
Oh, you can park right on the
City
street
Hall.
and walk your butt down.
Mm-hmm.
I should do that. Well, the city council meetings are pretty set up so you can actually make a statement in the beginning and at the end.
You can make a statement in the beginning on public comment if what you want to talk about is on the agenda. Otherwise, if it's not on the agenda, you have to do it at second public comment.
Gotcha. So if you want to talk about this and get like some official reports or statements or something like that, you should get up there and stand up and tell these people you want to hear official statements on this kind of stuff. We want to be as transparent as much as possible. We want our local government to be so too. When I called the clerk's office to ask, it's at 97 North Broad Street, Hillsdale, Michigan. So 97th North Broad Street.
Yep.
So when I was asking the clerk how many lawsuits does the city have, and he wanted to be careful about this, but obviously there was more than a few. So he said that he didn't know in all areas where the lawsuits are. I didn't know whose job is it to know all the lawsuits, but when I asked him where I go to find out, it was like, go to the internet.
Well, here's the other thing. Here's the dangerous part. And Mark Wiley made this statement to me during the Anthony Hart, when I brought out the Anthony Hart case, is he said, well, that's why we have insurance. So, and we can't talk about these cases. Well, yes, you can. You can tell me as the boss that I'm being sued, right? If I had an office manager, if I had a manager for my business was being sued, but my office manager didn't tell me, the boss, that I was being sued, Would I be a little angry at the office manager?
Yeah.
Yeah. And don't you think the office manager has an obligation to tell the boss that he's being sued? No, they don't have to get into all the details. They just got to go, boss, you're being sued. For what? For A, B, and C. Okay. That's, you don't have to get into all the details, but yet they don't do that. Now, his whole thing was, well, that's what we've got insurance for. Okay. Well, my analogy was, I've got insurance on my truck, but should I go out and run it into a tree every day because I got insurance on it? No, because at some point in time, the insurance company is going to go, you know what? We're tired of covering your truck because you keep driving it into a tree.
Or are they raising your rates?
Well, they're going to do that.
Yep.
But even at some point in time, no matter, I can't pay enough, they're still going to say, you know what? We don't care.
Penny,
You're just done.
Penny, who gives a shit? It's other people's money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. OPM. But the fact of the matter is, if they get to a certain spot, what's going to happen is the same thing is going to happen to you as a driver if you run into too many things. You're not going to be able to get insurance, which means you're going to have to self-insure. To self-insure means you got to have an X amount of money to go get a bond. And that bond, then, that money has to stay in for that bond so that you are bonded as an insurance policy. Do you know what that's going to cost the city if at some point in time or the county at some point in time when the insurance companies go, you know what, we don't like the way you're driving.
Do you know what they'll do, guys? Is they'll put it into a millage.
Sure. Well, or they'll hide it. Yeah, they'll hide it in a millage. Now, the other point I wanted to make, and
That's
just
what they will. They will
I know.
do it. I mean, that wasn't a joke. That was serious.
I know. That's what makes me ill a bit. But one other thing that we need to do, and that is this. I don't know that Mr. Jennings knew or willingly put himself
Yeah, most likely not.
in a situation like this. So I'm going to do this. If he works for the college, I'm assuming, I don't know, but I'm assuming that he's some professor at the college, that he probably is some position of teaching.
Yeah.
When you're in a position of teaching at a university, you have to be kind of above reproach.
Yeah.
Right?
Squeaky clean, you mean?
Yeah, you got to be kind of above reproach, because if you're not, it's hard for people to regurgitate what it is that you expound, right? And to be able to do it with a clear conscience.
I don't know how people listen to me. Ugh.
So it takes a certain amount of integrity, and it takes a certain amount of
Sure.
a certain level of squeaky cleanness, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So this is
Credibility.
credibility. This has got to be kind of tough on him if he didn't know all this was going on, and all of a sudden somebody said, "Hey, why don't you run for that spot?" Even though it's illegal, and we're not going to tell you about that. And then he's into it now, in for a penny, in for a pound. Now he's sitting there with the splatter on his face, going, "I didn't even know it was loaded."
And whoever asked him, I've been told, is on council, and seems like this is a pretty basic thing that somebody on council should know.
Well, they're
Yes.
responsible for knowing the charter too. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
that's
None of
part of
them
their
have made a
job,
public
yeah.
statement.
Right.
Like nobody has said, "Hey, paper, we need you to come over here, and we're going to talk about this." Nobody's done that yet.
Well, and here's the thing: it's not like if any one of them called the paper and said, "Hey, I want to make a statement," that Corey wouldn't be there in a heartbeat with his recorder, his pen, and his paper, or his pad, paper, and pen, right?
This is a constitutional matter. Why don't they come on the show, make a public
well,
statement?
they're not going to come to us. They'd rather go to somewhere that
They can
protects the elite,
control
elite,
their
yeah.
what they're saying
that
a little bit.
protects the
like,
elite
yeah,
and makes it
yeah,
still
yeah.
look like they're the press.
Yeah.
It's not just not
You're making
ad
quotation.
sales.
You're making
Yeah,
quotation.
not an ad
fingers.
sales group, because really, let's face facts. Media now and newspapers and radio and TV are nothing more than the marketing groups.
Sure.
They sell soap.
So I guess the goal here is to get some public statements, to talk to Lovinger on Monday, to talk to Jennings. I'm going to try to get him through the weekend if I can. Maybe I can get him through the weekend, maybe on Facebook or something like that nature. And
How quick can we get this podcast on the air? I don't think we did too bad.
we're an hour and 15 minutes. I bet I can get this out probably sometime through the weekend.
Oh,
Good.
good.
Yep.
That would be good, because it needs to get out.
Yep.
Yeah,
It needs
I
to
think
get
I
out.
could get this pressed through the weekend.
Okay.
With no doubt in my mind. All right, everybody, thank you for listening to the show. God bless. Penny, go ahead and say goodbye. John.
God bless everybody. Have a great weekend.
Read your constitutions.
And your city charter.